Well, let's talk further about the state of American democracy with our guests in our vantage point here above the White House. We have Carrie Sheffield, who is a Conservative commentator. Joy Cheney is a domestic legal policy expert and Democratic political strategist. And Arsalan Iftikhar is the founder of the GeoMuslim Institute, a watchdog group challenging anti-Muslim bigotry. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us. It's worth telling you that we are right now just a couple of hours ahead of a big speech by Kamala Harris. They're saying it's going to be her closing argument to the American voters. And she's making the speech, I think, Joy, at a significant place, because it's called the Ellipse. It's very near the White House, near where we are now. And it's exactly the same place where Donald Trump spoke on January the 6th, 2021, just before his supporters headed to Capitol Hill. What message is she trying to send?
She's trying to say, look, this is a chance for us to move forward as a nation. We're going to put what happened on January 6th behind us, and we're going to have a hopeful future that's focused on freedom, focused on inclusion for all, focused on success for all, the opportunity to really have the American dream. That is a far cry from what we saw this past weekend from the Donald Trump closing argument speech.
And that was the one in Madison Square Garden. We'll come back, I think, to that in a little bit. I want to continue to talk about the state of US democracy, Arsalan. But first, politically, the fact that she is focusing on this issue. There are so many other issues. I'm sure she'll mention many of them in her speech. But the fact she's focusing on this issue, is that the right decision politically, in your view?
Well, I think it's the right decision because of the importance of mobilizing and getting out the vote on November 5th, right? You know, if you can lay forth a platform showing that our society, our American democracy is at essentially an existential constitutional crossroads here, hopefully it'll motivate enough people to actually go out and vote on Election Tuesday.
So, staying with you, Arsalan, how healthy is US democracy?
I mean, November 5th is gonna tell a lot. You know, on one hand, you're having a sitting vice president who is, you know, the Democratic nominee, and on the other hand, you have a former Republican president who has been convicted for 34 felonies. You know, felons aren't allowed to vote in the United States, but we might elect one come November 5th.
I think you should respond to that, Carrie. You are the Republican here, the Trump supporter. Is he a threat to democracy, as you have heard the others say he clearly is?
I would strongly disagree with that. And in fact, if you look at what the American people say about those 34 charges and these other cases that have been brought against him, even Democrats say that many of these cases, if not all, are politically motivated. And that is part of why Trump is beating Kamala Harris when it comes to the Electoral College. Look at realclearpolitics.com. You can see that Donald Trump currently has more than 290 delegates if there are no toss-up states. The reason why is because the American people believe these charges are being brought by people who are running for office on Get Trump. That is not democracy, to have the rule of law explicitly, partisanly going after a specific person. And in the state of New York, they changed the law specifically so they could target Donald Trump. That is not blind justice. So in my view, that is a threat to democracy, to attack your political opponents with jail time. Look, I actually did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016, in part because I did not like that at his rallies they would chant lock her up to Hillary Clinton. I wrote in Ben Sasse, Senator Ben Sasse. Then Donald Trump got in office. He had policy after policy that I agreed with. I was happy to vote for him in 2020. I will vote for him this year as well.
Do you agree with everything that he is saying right now on the campaign trail? Let me pause for a second, I think. Let's just listen to what both of the candidates have been saying recently while they've been out campaigning.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military. Because they can't let that happen.
In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. It is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist.
Well, Carrie, let's just talk about some of the things we heard there. Enemies from within. That is a phrase used by Adolf Hitler in Germany in the 1930s. And then you heard Kamala Harris talking about Trump's former chief of staff, General John Kelly, saying he believes that Trump has fascist tendencies.
Well, I'm sure if we were to look at Kamala Harris or pretty much any U.S. politician, you could find phrases that Hitler used. So I think that is a far stretch. But in terms of the question of whether or not Trump is a fascist, he literally wants to decimate the bureaucracy, a bureaucracy that actively tried to undermine him, the duly elected president.
But it's not
that is the antithesis of democracy, to have a bureaucracy trying to undermine the duly elected president. That is a threat to democracy.
Install loyalists who would say nothing but yes to him. This man...
That is called democracy. Democracy is the president is allowed to have the people...
stand up.
Arsalan.
Donald Trump banned Muslims from entering the United States, which since the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1843 was the first time that an ethnicity was ever barred from entering the United States. If you have to hearken back to a racist law from 1843 to show what a racist politician is doing in 2024, Donald Trump once said that Islam hates us. He said that Netanyahu should, quote unquote, finish the job in Gaza, that we should grab women by the private parts. This is something that is not only antithetical to either Republican or Democratic values. Just basic human decency is something that is completely antithetical to Donald Trump's entire existence.
But Islam is not a race. Islam is not a race. There are many people of all races who are Muslim. So I reject that you say this is racist. And he also did not.
Well, let me just very racist.
And he also did not ban all Muslims. He said there is a specific list of high terrorist regions,
7 countries, and none of these countries had any
population.
7 countries. I'm a civil rights lawyer. I don't think you are. Let's not get personal here, please. Ban 7 countries from entering the United States, and nobody from any of these countries ever committed a terrorist act. This is the same guy who said during the 2017 Charlottesville neo-Nazi protest that there are great people on many sides, and he's talking about the enemy within him at the radical left. Get real.
That's not what he was referring to.
Who had a rally just this past weekend,
and
he used Dixie, the song Dixie, when he was bringing in people. Carrie, many of us believe Donald Trump is racist, and if he's not, he certainly plays one on TV. So we're concerned, and misogynist as well. So look, there is nothing that Kamala Harris you could put out there that I would be embarrassed or humiliated about. I'm from Orlando, Florida. My neighbors all voted for Donald Trump, many of them before. Almost none of them are saying they want to vote for him now. It could be that they're embarrassed to admit it, but that says something negative about your candidate. He is a bigot, Carrie.
No, he's not. I'm sorry, he's not.
Hey,
look
Carrie,
at black. Okay, black female voters are voting for Donald Trump, according to CNN polling. Black female voters are 20% more likely to vote for Donald Trump today. Barack Obama.
We'll see what happens,
the
Carrie.
margins for Barack Obama compared to Kamala Harris is 20% down among black women,
supporting
and also black men are even higher in how they're supporting Donald Trump.
He wants
and I think in swing states, I think they could make a difference.
Carrie, did you hear me?
Ladies,
he did have that.
Ladies,
I'm sorry, that's delusional.
But this is your.
Carrie, can I ask you about specific threats that Trump has made? I mean, by one count, 100 threats to investigate, prosecute, or imprison his opponents. He says he'll appoint a special counsel to investigate Joe Biden. He says that Liz Cheney is guilty of treason. I mean, this isn't how things normally work in this country. Political witch hunts. This isn't how American democracy is supposed to work.
Okay, what's so Orwellian is that he literally survived an assassination attempt. He is being specifically targeted by state law changed to go after him. He is being targeted for who he is, not because the justice is blind against him. Literally, This White House is trying to throw a political rival in prison. That is a threat to democracy. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the threats to democracy.
His crimes are what makes him in this situation.
They are making up crimes. I'm
no,
sorry.
They're not making
yes,
up
they
crimes,
are.
Carrie. He has broken the law, and no man is above the law, including Donald Trump.
Even former New York Governor Cuomo said this law would never have been used against anybody except Donald Trump. A former governor of New York who knows his own state law.
Okay, let's bring Arsalan into the conversation as well. In your view, how different would a second Trump presidency be from the first one? Because there were people like Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, James Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, and there are those that are arguing this time around there'll be no grown-ups, no guardrails.
It'll be worse because he's told us that it would be worse. We don't believe him when he says that he's going to do things like decimate our entire federal government bureaucracy and install his own yes men loyalists who are going to be nothing more than sycophants. This is the fact that we are even having this conversation. You know, in 1973, Roe versus Wade was passed as the law of the land. For 50 years, it remained on the books here. But because of him stacking the court, he's going to get more. Whoever wins on Election Tuesday is going to get to choose another 1 or 2 Supreme Court justices, and it's going to have a real impact on generations of Americans to come.
OK, Joy, I want to ask you about what happens in the immediate aftermath of the election.
Yeah.
How worried should we be? I'm sure there'll be court cases, but do you think there is a real risk after what we saw on January the 6th of violence, of disorder?
Look, we're worried. The court cases are the least of our problems. We're worried about violence because of your candidate. We're worried because he incited violence at that same place that Kamala is speaking at tonight, and he sent everyone to the Capitol, and people died because of it, right? And the only people that went to jail were not him, unfortunately. It were the people that, the rank and file people, the average everyday Americans who were inspired by his lies that he continues to perpetuate. Even in his campaigns right now, he's perpetuating.
We're coming to the end.
Dangerous.
I want to give Carrie 30 seconds to respond.
Donald Trump said, I want you to go peacefully. He did not incite violence. He said, go peacefully. And so when people like BLM, Antifa tear down, dozens of people have died in the aftermath of BLM and Antifa terrorism riots, billions of dollars in property damage in majority black neighborhoods and black businesses because of the enemies from within that Donald Trump is talking about. Donald Trump wants to restore law and order to this country. That is why he will win. That is why the economy, Kamala Harris should be talking about the economy, but she cannot.
Will definitely
we will be talking about the economy, but just not right now. Thank you, Joy, Carrie and Arsalan. Al Jazeera will have comprehensive special coverage on election night. Make sure to join us.